Hello everybody, good evening. Welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news. An Ugarte transfer outrage and McTominay decision time. Also, we'll be dissecting some of what's been said by Fabrizio Romano on his interview exclusively on the United Stand with Beth and asking ourselves where we are now. Also, ask me anything tonight. It's up to you. Get involved with that as well. And we'll be talking about this positivity around Manchester United. Is it just the buzz thing from what we've been doing already? I've seen a lot of people talking in the chat about, have you seen all these clips of people shouting and calling out the media? And I'm like, what do you think we've been doing for the last 18 months? I'm glad that people are finally doing it because it felt like it was just pretty much us. So the more the merrier. Get on board. But look, let's start off with the Ugarte story. It's coming in from French sources. It's coming in from GFFN. We've used them before. We've heard about them before. We're early because I'm doing Spurs against Leicester at 8 o'clock, by the way. I've just realised it's an early show, 7 o'clock. So there we go. But let's fly straight into this. So the breaking news on Ugarte is coming in from Get French Football News. They're basically saying that talks between Manchester United and PSG over the transfer of Manuel Ugarte are accelerating. But that's not the outrage. The outrage is PSG are determined not to lose out financially in a deal on Ugarte, and they are confident of recouping the 60 million euros they paid last year. Now, I am a big fan of Ugarte, and I think that Ineos will get this deal done, and I think that they must get this deal done because he is our priority midfielder. He is a defensive monster, and none, I repeat, none of the alternatives are anywhere near the profile he is. If you're concerned about Casemiro's legs, his ability to track back, his ability to tackle, quickly and tenaciously, then Ugarte will tick all of those boxes. However, if you want something a little bit different to that, then don't go and get Ugarte because he is the only guy that's going to be able to do that for us who we're looking at the moment. But there is also a scenario where we say, well, do we walk away? Because we said it about Branthwaite, and I'll tell you what annoys me about PSG if this is true. And look, the deal's been going for 2 months now. We started on the Ugarte deal at the start of July. It's now the 19th of August. The reason this deal hasn't been done is because PSG are insisting on 60 million euros. We are going to talk about McTominay in a couple of minutes. McTominay apparently might not be leaving Man United now because Man United don't want him to leave. We spoke about this exclusively yesterday. We'll tell you what that's all about. But in relation to, I haven't got any pink lipstick on. I saw that today on the podcast. It looks like I've got pink lipstick on. Maybe I've had an allergy or something. I did have a shave today. I don't know. But I haven't got pink lipstick on. But look, nothing against pink lipstick, but I haven't. But my point is that if this is true around PSG, and I don't think there's any reason to believe that it's not, it's bloody outrageous. How can well, they can ask for what they want, as Everton can ask what they want, but we shouldn't bloody pay it. 60 million euros for a player they paid 60 million euros for a year ago that they don't want anymore. That's not how it works. We can't get 80 million euros for Anthony. We didn't work. It didn't work, and we want 80 million euros. How on earth can they ask for a player for 60 million euros for a player they don't want anymore? And the hilarious thing about this is, and if I was Man United, I'd say, hold on a minute. You can put all the arguments in front of us that you like. But can I mention 2 words? Di Maria. We paid £60 million to Real Madrid for Di Maria in his 20s. And he didn't settle. He didn't have an amazing season, but it wasn't terrible, and he just didn't settle. It wasn't that we didn't want him to settle. It wasn't that he didn't fit our team. He wanted to go. You came along and gave us £44 million. We lost 16 million in 12 months on a good player. 16 million in a year. 25%. In a year on a player that was actually still good. He just didn't want to be here anymore. And you, the same club, want us to pay everything you paid to Sporting Lisbon a year ago when you don't bloody want him. You know what you can do? You can do one. Absolutely do one. So, look, I stand with Ineos on this. There is a risk. There is a big risk because I can't not say what I'd said at the start of the show, that this is the player that we need to bring in. Without a shadow of a doubt, there is no real backup to him, as we said this morning. Sander Berge is not the same profile of player. Amrabat is not the same player. Fofana is going to Milan. Rabiot, well, we've not heard anything about that at all. Part of me thinks that if Ugarte didn't happen, and God forbid it doesn't, I'd probably steer towards Rabiot. As scary as that is, Rabiot's a short-term fix. Get Ugarte next summer. But look, I think we will get the Ugarte deal. And the interesting thing about it is that in the same article, it says that a deal is accelerating, but PSG will not take anything less than 60 million euros. I just wonder here, devil's advocate, whether there is a pathway to 60 million euros for PSG in this deal, which honestly, you might look at. And I'm talking about add-ons. If this happens, if that happens, if we qualify for the Champions League for the next 3 years, we will pay you an add-on of, and it will go to 60 million. I think maybe that's the way to look at it. Why are we acting like Ugarte is Vieira? There's other DMs in the world. Why are we wasting time on him? Says Zuteng. Very good question, Zuteng, which isn't exclusive to you, if we're being honest, but very good question. But I would take you back to what I said last night and this morning. We have got 11 days left in this transfer window. We can't pivot to Zubimendi or any other decent holding midfielder now. You can't do it in 11 days. We are where we are. And honestly, mate, there really isn't a pivot player that we can go to after Ugarte that's anything like him. So, yeah, let's just wait and see. But as Red Olsen said, great point. Maybe there's a deal there where you combine it with Jadon Sancho and make it look appealing. Maybe that's the way that we do it. Obviously, Fabrizio was on the show this afternoon, and this is what he had to say about Ugarte. If you haven't watched that video, he said Manuel Ugarte is crazy about joining Manchester United. He is desperate to make the move happen, and Man United haven't got their this is the best bit. Man United have got their top targets so far, and the potential signing of Ugarte is seen as the best way to complete that. And I think what Fabrizio says there is absolutely spot on. We have got our top targets. So I think it will happen. I think it will happen. But I repeat what I say. It's a bloody outrage. And imagine what Ugarte's feeling. If we think it's an outrage, imagine what Ugarte's feeling. You move to PSG with the best intentions for 60 million euros. They don't want you, and then they say they want a ridiculous fee. You'd be bloody fuming. Nobody in Europe thinks Ugarte is worth 60 million euros this summer. Nobody on the planet thinks he's worth 60 million euros. We're taking a bit of a leap of faith. I agree with Zuteng. He ain't Vieira. He ain't Kimmich. There are people out there that would say Man United should swerve this deal completely. I disagree. I think they've seen something in that player that we need in our team. And I think that thing is, it's not about taking the ball off the back four and playing passes like Kimmich or Rodri. He is a profile of player that suits us. Liverpool wouldn't want him. Liverpool wants a Zubimendi to take the ball and move the ball. We're looking for a player that's got legs, who can, tenaciously win the ball back and be a defensive monster. He fits a very specific profile of what we need. And that's what we're looking at there. Thanks everyone who's getting involved. We are a little bit early tonight. We've nearly got 1,000 likes on the video already, so make sure you smash a like on the video. Absolutely fantastic. We can go back on that. Get your questions in. Absolutely. There's quite a lot to get through tonight, and I've got an 8 o'clock cut off because I'm doing Leicester against Spurs on That's Football. Chuff Bridge, what a name. Do you think the stubbornness on 60 million euros from PSG is Qatar's revenge? I think again, another fantastic point tonight. I think that I've never really taken much notice of the Qatari involvement in PSG and how pissed off they might be with the Glazers. But logically, you probably would. But we've been in talks with PSG since early June, and there's never been any issue. And George Mendes is working on it. So, football's... Oh, what's that? It's the new Premier League ball. Smash a like. Look at that. That is the official new Premier League ball from the weekend. Signed by a player. Thank you. It's not signed by a player, but it is the official ball. We have a history of buying good players and they flop, says Constantine. Thank you very much. Byron, welcome to the Members Club. And Ivan says, do you think we have a backup plan if we get Ugarte? Season has already started and Casemiro, I don't think, can play a full season. Well, I think the backup plan is probably Amrabat and Berge. You probably get both, 2 for 1. I don't think it gets mentioned enough. I think if we don't get Ugarte, we'll get Sander, Berge and Amrabat. But long term, that's a concern, isn't it? Because that's not short term, going for 2. Let's talk about the midfield, though. There is an update coming in on just before we talk about Scott McTominay, there is an update coming in on Scott McTominay that Casper has just said, I'm not sold on Ugarte's profile. I would like Wharton, even if it's for next summer. But you know what, Casper? I don't mind your first bit because nobody can guarantee that Ugarte is the right profile of player for Manchester United. It's an Ineos pick with Ten Hag and you've got to trust them, of course. But the Wharton thing, I would say, but that's just pure fantasy. You know, that started on Twitter with somebody saying, let's get Wharton next year. And I think that with that, I would say that it's really difficult to get excited about a Twitter rumour. I mean, I know where it started. I saw the account. It got loads of tweets and retweets. Let's get this year and go for Wharton next year. But Crystal Palace are going to want 80 to 100 million pounds. And also, Man City will be looking at him. Liverpool will look at him. You can't plan. That'd be like 3 years ago saying, let's not get this player because we want Bellingham next year. That's exactly what Liverpool did. And then they had to pull out because he was going to go to Real Madrid. Now, fortunately, they had a good plan B, but we can't just plan for next summer and on a player that would be very, very difficult to get. Goretzka has been told he is surplus to requirements at Bayern. He has Inu, but there is no mention of Manchester United. Hi, Mark. Can I have one of those beautiful books behind you? Did you mention me in there? Also, I don't get the care. Yeah, okay. Nelson, thank you very much. Right, let's talk about Scott McTominay. We can always pivot back. Pivot is our concrete this summer, let's be honest. It really is. But let's talk about Scott McTominay. So, look, this is why I keep saying I won't believe McTominay is leaving Manchester United until I see whatever shirt he's going to wear held up next to him with Scott McTominay on the back. I think it's logical. I think it makes total sense. He needs first-team football. We need to get rid of a midfielder, and he is the most valuable one we have at the moment. So it's tick, tick, and effing tick. But Sky Sports are saying this afternoon Sky Sports chef is saying this afternoon that Manchester United don't want to sell Scott McTominay and they will only let him go if they get £30 million and McTominay says he wants to leave. Now, this has sent people into a spin because they're like, here we bloody go again. We get close to selling McTominay like we did last year. We get a good offer and then we back away from it. I think that Shubham, I'll read it in a minute. Very good comment. I'm not. Look, as much as I'm like, let's wait and see if he holds up the shirt. What a load of crap! What a load of crap that is from Sky. Come on. I mean, realistically, Ineos ain't stupid, and neither are you. You're telling me Manchester United, who've got 7 midfielders: Scott McTominay, Eriksen, Casemiro, Mainu, Mount, Bruno, Collier. We've got 7 midfielders, and we're currently negotiating for number 8, Ugarte. And you're telling, and we haven't got a lot of money. And you're telling me Sky have nailed it by saying Man United don't want to sell McTominay. If he wants to go and the money's there, they'll consider it, but they don't want to sell him. Come on, sometimes you've got to engage this and go, we've got 7 midfielders. We're trying to buy an 8th, and that used to be something. Buying an 8th used to be something else. Wink, wink. If you know, you know. We're currently looking to buy Ugarte, which would be 8 midfielders. And that's took me back, that did. And it's and we've got no money. We've got no money. So I personally, I think we spoke about this yesterday. Ten Hag doesn't want McTominay to go, but he also wants Ugarte. Ineos have got their head screwed on. What this is potentially what happened with James Garner, where you've got a manager saying that they have got, they just want to keep as many options as they can. I mean, what Ten Hag wants is he wants his cake and he wants to eat it. He wants Ugarte to be the defensive monster. He wants Casemiro to be an option. He wants Mainu. He wants Collier. He wants Mount. He wants Bruno. Oh, I'll have McTominay as well so I can throw him on. He just wants as many as he can because last year he had hardly anything. Ten Hag wants to go from looking around last season and going, bloody hell, there's no one, to looking around and going, I've got more options than someone with a lot of options. And I think that what the truth is that Ineos are saying to Ten Hag, you might not want to sell McTominay, but you want Ugarte. And if you want Ugarte, you need to sell a midfielder. And Eriksen's got no value. Nobody wants Casemiro. Scott McTominay is pure profit. If we sell Casemiro for 35 million, when it comes to FFP, there's very little in the pocket because we bought him for 60 million 2 years ago. Amortization rips into that massively. If we sell Scott McTominay, it's 25 or 30 million pure profit for FFP purposes. It massively helps us with Ugarte. Now, if you want to keep Scott McTominay, pray tell us what other midfielder you're going to sell that's going to bring in 30 million quid. So I think what we've got here is probably Manchester United in the last 12 days of the transfer window basically saying to Fulham and Napoli, we're in no rush to sell unless you give us what we want, which is part of the game. But I don't for 1 minute think Ineos are sat there with Ten Hag saying he's not for sale. Unless he tells us he wants to go, he's not for sale. Because I would say, oh, that's really interesting. So we're not getting Ugarte then, are we? Because we wouldn't have any money. So Spurs just got 25 million for Oliver Skip, says Carl. I'm so glad you said that, Carl. I'm so glad you said that. So Skip's just gone for 25 million. He's absolutely bang average. He is a bang average midfielder. If Skip's going for 25 million, then McTominay is worth 25 million with a year left on his contract. SK says, PSG say fee is based on what other clubs are willing to pay. Maybe PSG told United they'll sell on deadline day for a lower fee if no better bid came in, says SK. Exactly. If we win the Europa League, will you get a Pratt tattoo, says Beans on Toast. I mean, it's not really it's not like winning the bloody Champions League, is it, mate? Ineos get Ugarte and ins equals 8 out of 10. Outgoings equals 2 out of 10, though, as Maguire and McFred, problem 5 years ago. 3 out of the 4 are still here. How do you rate overall? I mean, that's an interesting point from BB Coach, that out of Magaluf and McFred, 3 of them are still here, and they were a problem 5 years ago. Lewis says, unless Sancho goes the other way to PSG, I'd rather not cover PSG's losses and walk away from Ugarte. Thank you very much, mate. I was watching Sky Sports News yesterday and Clinton Morrison said De Ligt has fell off the last few years. I switched off the channel. This is really good advice. You know, your biggest mistake was going on to Sky Sports when there's not a match on, because everything else on there is total shite. Harry says, clip that. I don't know what it was. Slow sports experts are just a bunch of hipsters, says Kieran G. Any update on the left-back situation? Freddie, I've just had a brain blank here. What did Fabrizio say about the left-back situation? He said, Kadioglu, no, which is interesting because I said that as well, and it wasn't Fabrizio who told me. I can't remember what he said. Oh, Chilwell, no. He said no about Chilwell. So happy day. I mean, Kadioglu's disappointing, but Chilwell's disappointing as well. Oh, I know what he said now. He said that Manchester United are basically what they're doing is that they don't have any money. They don't have any money for a left back. So Chelsea want money for what's his name, Ben Chilwell. That's what Fabrizio's update was. Thank you, everybody in the chat who's telling me that. Fabrizio was basically saying that with the left back, and this is what my fear is, this is what I said this morning, I think we're going to end up with a stopgap, which is quite interesting when you think about it, because we knew we needed a left back at the start of the summer transfer window. This is not something that's fallen upon us because we have lost Luke Shaw to injury. This is something that we knew about because this was a target I remember talking about very, very early on in the summer transfer window. So to not have any money for a left back is quite interesting because we knew we needed one. But basically what Fabrizio said was that Kadioglu is very unlikely for Manchester United because they don't want to spend that amount of money on the left back. And that even Ben Chilwell is very unlikely for Manchester United in this summer transfer window because they don't want to spend money on a left back. So what we're looking at really is something really cheap, aren't we? And what we know about cheap left backs is that they will be short term. So it feels like Man United is still really hopeful that Mainu and Luke Shaw will come back and stay fit, which I think is a double negative, isn't it? We want a player who can win the ball where other teams want their 6 to conduct the game. Even in Ajax, De Jong do the same. That's a little bit strange, says Sapatashi. Yeah, I mean, look, just going back to Ugarte, if you've tuned in a little bit late, PSG still holding out for 60 million euros. Ugarte himself, desperate to come. It's outrageous what they're trying to do, really, with the fee. But I think that it's very important that when we look at new signings, look, I actually think it's good that there is a bit of a siege mentality developing around Man United's fan base. As I said, I've seen a few of the clips today and a few people just going on about it because they're jumping on the trend, and I'm all for that. I put my thumbs up to it. We don't all agree in this community, but nobody can ever say that I haven't backed Ten Hag and this team and called out the mainstream for the last 12 months, certainly very harshly over the last 6 months. Over the weekend, after the match on Friday, during the match, you know, the negativity around Manchester United, it's not shock jockey. It's not somebody's just reinvented the wheel. We've been talking about it on here for a very, very long time. Whether it's TalkSport, Sky Sports, ex-players, the media, journalists, Manchester Evening News, they're all at it. There's a very negative feeling around Manchester United from those quarters. And it feels like Manchester United under Erik Ten Hag is just one game away from the sack with those people. Yet within the fan base, that's not the case. Within the fan base, I'd say the most important thing that is on our mind is how's this transfer window going to go in the first summer of Ineos? I don't think anybody's really scrutinising Ten Hag. I think we're looking at, you know, let's see how we start this season. Let's get the business done. Let's start continuing with this new structure under Erik Ten Hag. So I think that some of the you know, it's about time the media caught on to that they're sort of missing the boat with all this negativity, because it's not really representative of how Manchester United fans are feeling at the moment. Having said that, I also think you can also go a little bit too positive. Like, let me just say this: I'm very much behind Ten Hag. We were the biggest and only outlet, really, out of, well, if you want to call the United Stand a massive outlet, which I think you are. We get more eyes than some of these news outlets. Certainly some of the, you know, I don't want to name names, it's not fair, but some news outlets, we definitely get more views and clicks and whatever you want to call it than they do. And we were the only big outlet that was, you know, asking for Ten Hag to stay, demanding Ten Hag stays. So massively positive, and fair play to those people who were part of that. Some of you weren't, though, and that's my point. You know, jumping on the positivity bandwagon is actually probably too far. And what I mean by that is scrutiny is very important. This is Erik Ten Hag's 3rd year. If we all just go, get behind Erik, come on, just be positive, that's good to a certain point, but don't lose your expectations and don't lose your standards. Like, it is year 3 for him. I demanded this year because it's a trilogy. I want to see what Ten Hag can do in year 3, and I felt last year there was an insurmountable amount of issues that made his job virtually impossible. This season, a lot of things are in place for us to do a lot better. We still have to get some signings in. We still have got a couple of injuries, but I look at that league table and we shouldn't be finishing outside the top 4 unless something crazy goes on with injuries again. So no, it's not a free pass. It's not screw everybody else and let's just get behind United if we play shit and we don't win games. There is that scrutiny there. And that's the same with certain players. You know, we can't just go, oh, let's leave Anthony and Rashford and Mount and Onana and everybody else alone because it's a brand new start. It's not. They've got a chance, but they've got to deliver. What I would say is this season is the season to deliver. The bigger point I was going to make is that on Ugarte, I've seen some of the comments and there was one there, very, very good comment, that when you look at Ugarte's profile, he's certainly not Rodri and he's certainly not Zubimendi and he's certainly not Kimmich. He's certainly not a midfielder that's going to go to Martinez and go to De Ligt or Maguire and say, give me the ball under pressure and just start pinging little passes like Rodri in that. That's not what he is. I'm not saying he can't do it, but that's not what he is. Ugarte's profile is to come into that team and basically probably replace something that we haven't really had since Fred, which is, and I'm not saying he's like Fred, he's not, but we don't really have that quick across the ground defensive monster with an amazing engine. And it's going to be very interesting to see how he fits in at United, because I think we're desperate for that. We don't have that. Kobe Mainoo is a ball magnet. He can play the ball. And Ugarte won't be bad at it, but we do desperately need that. But I think the most important thing is, if we get Ugarte, is to understand what type of a player he is. And it'll be very interesting to see how he works. And look, the reason I mention that is that there are people in the chat and out there that are going, you know what, I'm not actually convinced that it'll work. But I think it will. Charlotte says, what are your thoughts on Will Fish leaving? Well, great point, Charlotte. The update from Fabrizio was that Lindelof is... it's very likely that Lindelof will leave Manchester United next summer on a free transfer. Now, contentious, yes, but I think that when you look at it, it's not a surprise, is it? I mean, Will Fish has to go. Some people on the tour and in this chat were saying that there's a possibility that he could have made it through into the first team. Some people were saying they would have kept Will Fish as 4th or 5th choice centre-back. I thought he might go on loan. There is absolutely no chance Will Fish should do anything other than leave Manchester United this summer because there is no pathway. Like, you've got Yoro, Martinez, De Ligt, Maguire, Lindelof, Evans, 6 centre-backs. We're so stacked in that position. Now, I think we all know 2 of those probably weren't on the list to be here now, but they are. And in that case, Will Fish going is an absolute no-brainer. Now, whether he was going to be good enough, whether we should have kept him, whether we should have loaned him, I mean, look, you can't solve that debate, but it's not a surprise to me that he's going. And it's not a surprise to me that, you know, as Fabrizio said, and many of you speculated last night when we spoke about him, that Lindelof will run his contract down and stay at Manchester United and go on a free transfer next year. Now, the cynic in you will say, well, you know, that's just completely unambitious. It's mercenary. He's on 120k a week. No one else is going to give him that. So he's willing to sit on his arse for 12 months so he can go and make a load more money next summer as a free transfer somewhere and basically waste a year of his career. It's harsh. Is it harsh but fair? I would say this. What are Ineos supposed to do? You've got a player on crutches on 120k who in a year walks out the door for free. He can earn 120k for the next year, a week, which is what? £500,000 a month. He can earn £6 million in... It's not even 12 months, is it? It's next May, next June. It's 10 months. Make £6 million over the next 10 months and still be old enough to go to a Turkish club or a Spanish club or an Italian club and say, I'm a free transfer, I can do a job, maybe get 3 or 4 million as a signing on fee and, wages of 40 grand or something like that. Financially, he's sorted. But what are Ineos supposed to do there? There's absolutely nothing you can do. I read it online today and it was absolutely spot on. A lot of people are talking about this summer being an impactful summer for Ineos, and it has been. But next summer will be even more impactful because it'll be another opportunity to bin off some of these players' contracts. Can you blame the player? What would you do in that situation? We're all moral guardians because it's our football club and we love it. But what would you do in that situation on 120k a week, knowing in a year's time you're going to get another payday, but you can earn 120k for 12 months? And if you leave now, you're basically taking a pay cut. I think you've got to look at it like that. It may be mercenary. It may not. But in that situation, what would you do? And in that situation, what are Ineos supposed to do? It's very frustrating. But you know what? Who is to blame? Well, it begins with G and it ends with R. And it's not Gale Platt. It's the Glazers. It's the Glazers. And these stupid contracts are very, very problematic. On a positive, we're not going to save any money on wages, but on a positive, what we can do is have 5 centre-backs, 6 centre-backs. Lindelof, Evans, Maguire, Yoro, De Ligt and Martinez. So we're stacked at centre-back, aren't we? 6 million, I'll take the money. It's all about the money, says Parker. Charlotte says, I don't blame Ineos. You have to sell what you can when stupid wages prevent others leaving. And look, mate, can I just say, this is probably something for if and when it happens. But if Scott McTominay goes, and some people won't be happy about that, Robert McCormack FC, in a way, if you are frustrated about McTominay going, if he goes, then this is a legacy problem that we need to solve. We need to filter out, because really, Ineos want Casemiro, Lindelof, maybe Maguire to go, maybe Eriksen to go, but they can't get rid of them because they're all on massive wages. McTominay is homegrown on a decent wage, so he's attractive. So it's not necessarily about selling the players that you want to go. It's about selling the players you can. Now, Chelsea do it in a different way. Chelsea just look at anybody from the youth setup and go, you're fair game. But from United, we're sort of inadvertently having to do the same thing. Miles says, Ugarte brings the same energy as Martinez. We need that in midfield. Yeah, look, I think he'll be a fan favourite very, very quickly. LA Channel says, you got our hopes up yesterday with Branthwaite. Well, if you watch the show, mate, it's not me getting your hopes up with Branthwaite. This is the second time in a week I've been associated with a story that I didn't put out. It actually came from Simon Jones in the Mail a week ago that said the Branthwaite deal could go to the wire. And he was the person who told us about the personal terms and both bids. So it's a good source. In the last few days of the transfer window, things are going to change a lot, aren't they? Now, Everton have had a crap start and are going to have a crap season. Man United haven't got a left footer at the moment, and we bid twice for Branthwaite. Until August the 31st or 30th, I don't think anybody can sit there and say that a third bid for Branthwaite is impossible. But what has been said is it could go to the wire, and also Everton would have to want to play ball. But you could add a third factor into that now. If Lindelof's going, probably prevents us doing the Branthwaite deal anyway. So, you can't really go buying another centre-back when you've already got 6, which would not have been part of Manchester United's plans. A player badly wants to move from PSG. At least it shows that he's a player interested in football, and we all know how important that mentality is. I love the show, says Red Devil Stand. Sabatashi says, we want a player who can win the ball. Where other teams... Yeah, we've done that one, haven't we, from Sabatashi? And we spoke about that one. Okay. Right, I want to just go through a few other bits that Fabrizio spoke about. This is obviously repetition, but important, because I think there are people out there that, rightly or wrongly, are very, very happy with Casemiro at the moment, and he is doing a good job. But I think that sometimes we can dismiss the truth. We can bury it like a cat buries a crap and pretend it doesn't smell, and it never happened. But the lingering smell cannot be immediately disguised by soil and earth. And the truth is that Manchester United did have an intention to sell Casemiro. And this is what Fabrizio said on the show earlier. The plan at the start of the summer was to sell Casemiro. Al Ittihad were interested, but the recent change of staff has cooled said interest. I would go as far as to say that Manchester United would be keeping Scott McTominay if Casemiro had gone. But he hasn't gone, so therefore McTominay is the next one in line. I think it's very, very clear. Look, if you said to me at the start of the summer, and I said to you at the start of the summer, who would you rather keep, Casemiro or McTominay? I mean, look, let's do a poll now. Start of the summer is irrelevant. Let's just do it now. And I won't tell you what my thoughts are. But Manchester United's intention at the start of the summer was to remove Casemiro. Why? I think his wage was a big thing, because if they were trying to remove him because of his ability, well, he's actually started the season quite well. So why do you think Man United wanted Casemiro to go this summer? Yes, he had a very bad end to the season, but I think it's his wage. I mean, look at the way he started the season. He's not crap, is he? I think he's got his vulnerabilities, but he's not crap. So I think that they were looking to get rid of him because of his wage. That's not been possible. So now what they're looking to do is bring in, is remove Scott McTominay. I don't think their plan is to remove both of them by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, I think that's where we are with that one. But it's interesting that we always remember that. Renate says, I've got a message to pick up my bookmark. Goldbridge get in, can't wait. I tell you what, we had Shubham earlier saying, I've read 2 chapters of your book and it's 8 out of 10 at the moment, which I absolutely love because, an arselicker would have said, I'm 2 chapters into your book. It's absolutely superb. It's 10 out of 10 so far. But he's actually saying 8 out of 10, which means it's not quite hitting perfection, but it's still good. So, an honest assessment on the book there. So thank you very much for that. And Renate, I hope you're going to enjoy your book as well. But if you want to order it, by the way, I wasn't thinking about it, but you can certainly order it through the link in the description or scan the QR code, which is on screen now. You could be listening to me tonight as you go to bed. It won't be me in your bed, so don't get excited. It'll be me in your ears. And I nearly said coming in your ears, which is just all kites are wrong. But yes, it's you can get the audio book, which is me reading it. Some people's audio books are not them. It's somebody else reading it. I mean, I did ask Gary Neville to do it. He just put the phone down. Gary Neville reading my book would be absolutely fantastic, but he wouldn't do it. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone who's buying it. And if you're offering your holidays or anything like that, it's a good read. Harvey Spector says, Bruno is worth 250k a week. The others need to go. Lionel's just gifted 5 memberships. You're an absolute legend. 17,000 of you tuning in, and we're an hour early tonight because I'm doing Leicester against Spurs. So absolute legends. Loving this community at the moment. So much positivity. So, well, not always, but you know what I mean. Good conversation, and it's been a good summer. And let's hope that... I just want this team... Look, I'm never going to not be critical when things need to be said. But overarchingly, we're on a journey. We don't need to pretend that Friday night was brilliant. It was workmanlike. We deserved to win. I'll argue that with anybody. But it wasn't fantasy football. There's still a lot of work to do. And yeah, by all means, let's be critical of the things that need to improve. Let's not try Mount and Bruno up front again. You know, let's get some midfield cover in. Let's get that defensive line higher up the pitch, etc., etc. But let's go on a journey together. That's what I want to see this season. Mario Franco says, reports Pellistri leaving for 8 to 10 million. Maybe get a left back. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what left back we'll end up going for. Who you got in your fantasy team, Mark, says Kieran. Let's put it this way. If Solanke doesn't score a double hat-trick today, I'm screwed. He's my last hope. He's like Luke Skywalker. Also, Patrick Lynch says, have Fulham bid for Sander Berge? Well, Sander Berge for Fulham might not be a bad signing if they're looking for a McTominay sort of attacking midfielder, because that's what I think Sander Berge more is. He's certainly not a holder. If I was McTominay, I'd be happy with the trophies I'd won and I'd want a new chapter, says Charlotte. And also, just on McTominay, by the way, remember what Fabrizio said? McTominay is open to going to Napoli. However, Napoli's situation depends on a sale. No official bid as of yet. But there is also still no official third bid from Fulham for McTominay, but they are back in conversations with Manchester United. I mean, look, I've got to be clear. Until he's holding up the shirt, I don't really believe that he will leave Manchester United. But we had a 30 million pound bid from West Ham last year that we could have took. Debatable whether we should have took, considering he scored some important goals for us. And, you know, he scored some important goals for us last year because the football was shit. I mean, somebody, hear me out, right? Somebody said the other day, why are we selling McTominay? He scored a lot of important goals last year and we need them again this year. And I said, you're absolutely right. He scored a few important goals last year. But look at last year. Look at the style of football. It was chaotic. It was crap. We were chucking balls in desperately. It was rubbish football where the ball's bouncing around in the box at the end of games and we're scoring a goal with Scott McTominay. Is that going to work this year when we've got a different profile of football that's hopefully going to get played? McTominay, I don't think, needs to be used in this current Man United side the way that the desperation football needed him last year. So I think it is time to move on. And I've got to be honest, if he doesn't end up leaving Manchester United, when you've got Fulham and Napoli both, you know, interested, and we need to raise money, and he's homegrown, I've got to say we've dropped the ball there. I mean, the components are just, it's an open goal. 2 clubs want him, 2 decent options for him. He's interested in going. We need the money. We don't need him. If we mess this deal up, it's incredible to me. And I would be saying to Eric Ten Hag, if I was Barada, I'd be saying, hold on a minute, Eric. You came in from Ajax with a brand of football that you've not actually shown yet because you can't do it. We're trying to get players in for you to do it, and then you're clinging on to a player that can't do it. Like, it's mixed messages, mate. Like, why do you want McTominay to stay when he's definitely not the type of player that can play in a system that you want to bring in? You know, why do you need this desperation, throw a man into the box for the last 10 minutes? Because that just shows you haven't got confidence in the way that you want to play. So I think Ineos will drive this because it makes total sense for everybody, really. Sancho, let's talk about Jadon Sancho. Sancho's, so basically Fabrizio said that with Jadon Sancho, it's 60-40. 60-40 that he will stay at Manchester United. So 60% chance he's going to stay and 40% chance that he will go. I mean, it's a little bit more than 50-50, isn't it? Quick maths. But I think it's probably a fair reflection of where we are, because if Jadon Sancho was on 120 grand a week, we wouldn't be able to move for interest. This is simply the same as Lindelof, the same as Casemiro, maybe Maguire as well. This is completely to do with the fact that we've got a player on silly wages. And it you know what? Sometimes people forget, but the player can be a victim as well. You know, maybe some of these players like Lindelof or Maguire or somebody else or Eriksen with 1 year left on their deal, they're sort of like, it's 1 year. I'll play a bit of football. I'll back myself to maybe play more than people think. But in a year's time, I'm absolutely fine. But I think that we also have a scenario, but some breaking news to come in here about Sander Berge, but it's not Manchester United. It's interesting. I'd seen this coming through, actually. But we'll come back to Sancho. So it's just been reported by Sky that Sander Berge is... Fulham. Rasmeister says, have Fulham bid 30 million for Scott McTominay? But then Korb says that Fulham have bid for Sander Berge. I mean, God, football's so weird. It's so weird. I'm not surprised by this. I'm not surprised by this at all. Fulham have made a 20 million plus add-ons bid for Manchester United midfield target Sander Berge. That's coming in from Sky Sports News. Okay, and that's... I mean, look, in relation to Sky and Fulham, I keep telling you, I would take that to the bank. They've got very good sources in relation to Fulham. So, Sander Berge to Fulham. I mean, if they sign him, they won't be going for McTominay. Yeah, they won't go for McTominay and him. So... Tabasco says we're never going to get rid of McTominay. Well, there is still Napoli in the game. And maybe McTominay would rather go to Napoli than Fulham. But what did I say to you 2 minutes ago? If we don't manage to sell McTominay from this situation where you've got two clubs interested, we've only got to look at ourselves. I couldn't give a shit, by the way, that Fulham have bid for Sander Berge. If anybody is concerned that we're not getting Sander Berge because Fulham have hijacked it, there is literally zero shits given here about that. My potential issue with this is that Fulham now don't want Sander Berge. So Fulham now don't want Scott McTominay, which I think is potentially a mistake by them, but that's up to them. I think McTominay probably suits them more than Sander Berge. Having seen them at the weekend, they certainly look to me like a team that needs somebody who can get on the end of crosses. But if that's what they're doing, then that's what they're doing. It's up to them. It really is up to them. But I would say that if that's true, that Fulham have bid for Sander Berge, which I think they have, then good. I don't want Sander Berge at Man United, so I'm very, very happy if that gets accepted. The downside is that we don't get McTominay out. I mean, Harvey says Ineos getting hijacked by Fulham. I don't think... I wouldn't say we've been hijacked there. I mean, to be honest with you, can I be really blunt? Walk into a pub, see an option when you're sober. I'm not interested in that. 8 pints in, might be interested in that. Someone else swoops in and takes it, I'll have a pint. I'm not that bothered. I never really wanted it anyway. I was just getting desperate. I'm not panicking about that. I'd rather go home and have a pot noodle and no out. Anyway, but yeah, I'm not bothered about Fulham taking Sander Berge. I'm more bothered that Fulham now won't be bidding for Scott McTominay because I think they've got the money. And Napoli haven't. I mean, James just said there, maybe Scott McTominay's told them that he's only interested in going to Napoli. Well, Napoli haven't got any bloody money at the moment, so that's problematic in itself. They already know we have an injury issue, but I did not find any concrete plan regarding this. All the players in list quick fix, big mistakes, says Sabatashi. Rasmus seems to be becoming the new Martial, missing crucial opening games. Who is the club's permanent striker? Saga is going to compare Rasmus Højlund, who's only been here a year and has been available for probably at least 75% of our games, with Anthony Martial, who last played football before COVID. Consistently. Yeah, there's no comparison there, mate. That's just inflammatory, and we're not responding to that. Fabrizio has retweeted about Ugarte. Ugarte is insisting for a Man United move. PSG and Man United are still talking. George Mendes leading negotiations. PSG open to sell. United keen. United need fee reduced, or they need a sale, or they'll have to go for a cheaper option. So it's Amrabat then, says Harvey Specter. Well, it could be, but a sale could be Jadon Sancho as well. We were talking about Sancho. 60-40 that he ends up leaving Manchester United. 60% chance he'll stay. Look, again, there'll be people happy with that. There'll be people frustrated with that. I would say, what do you want Ineos to do? Like, I mean, this is harder than Lindelof. I mean, this is a guy on 250 grand a week. It's such a difficult deal to sell. And I think when you look at it like that, as I said, if Sancho was on 120k a week and Man United wanted 35 million or 40 million, he'd be gone. Look, the reason Sancho will probably stay at Man United if he does is because nobody can afford him. Because we've given him a stupid contract. And in some ways, he's a victim himself, because he probably doesn't want to stay at Man United as fifth choice winger. And yeah, you know, maybe he can work his way back in, but ultimately it's very, very difficult to work your way back in, isn't it? And I'm sure he would rather be going on an adventure to a club that wants him, that's going to start him straight away. Instead, he's got a massive, massive fight just to get back on the bench. So Sancho, in a way, is trapped. I mean, it's not a bad way to be trapped when you've been paying that sort of money. But there's not a lot Ineos can do. You can't sell Lindelof on that wage. You can't sell Eriksen on 150k a week. You can't sell Maguire on 190k a week. You can't sell Casemiro on 350k a week. And you cannot sell Jadon Sancho when there's no interest at 250k a week. It's very, very difficult. And even next summer, we'll still have Sancho and Casemiro because their contracts aren't up. So it takes a while to filter out these ridiculous wages. But the good news is that every signing we've made so far hasn't been on more than 200 grand a week. So in the future, if any of these transfers flop, we've safety proofed ourselves to a certain extent that their wages will not be unobtainable for other clubs. Thanks everyone who's tuning in. Over 17,000 watching. Make sure you smash our like. Pellistri, I think, will go this week. We know about that. We've spoken about the left-back situation. In effect, Manchester United will not do a deal for the likes of Ben Chilwell and Kadioglu because Manchester United don't want to do... they don't want to spend a lot of money on a left-back. And obviously, it doesn't take a genius to realise that we don't have a lot of money at the moment because all our money is tied up in this Ugarte deal, of which we clearly don't have enough. So we just don't have the money to get the left back, and Rome's not going to get built in a day. Robert McCormack is currently financing the Fulham bid, so we keep McTominay, says Paul Crampton. He may well be. He's not in the show tonight, so maybe that's where he is. Yeah. What else did I want to talk to you about? So we spoke about Lindelof, of course. I mean, look, I don't want to read what Fabrizio actually said about Lindelof because we've spoken about it, but I will add this. Victor Lindelof isn't desperate to leave Manchester United unless there's a big offer from a big club. Nothing concrete. How? That's news to me, actually. How, as a professional footballer, can you not be desperate to leave when you are fifth choice centre-back? I mean, you've got to have a very, 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 very strong personal opinion of yourself if you think that you're playing regularly for Manchester United when Yoro, De Ligt and Martinez are in the club. Even if you combat Maguire, you're only fourth choice. So that surprises me. I didn't know that. Scott stays equals new contract equals never be able to sell, says Brendan. I don't know who. I don't think this is going to happen. I think McTominay surely will leave this time. Surely we'll get a player out. Because if we don't, Ugarte might fall through and we'll end up with Amrabat. I think it's really important to understand we don't have the money for Ugarte. Fabrizio has literally just retweeted a tweet where it basically says that unless PSG drastically reduce their fee for Ugarte or we sell a player, we can't do that deal. So effectively, we don't have the money for him. So if we do not find that money, we end up with Amrabat. Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic has just said that Fulham are close to signing Sander Berge for a fee of 20 million plus 5. Berge is on his way to London and has medical booked tomorrow. Means Fulham are moving on from McTominay. There you go. That's a door closed then, isn't it? And that's what bothers me. That's what bothers me. It's that I don't care about Sander Berge. I don't want Sander Berge. I don't think he's going to be a revelation at Fulham. In fact, he could be going 3 relegations in a row, couldn't he? Although Fulham won't get relegated. But I'm not worried about Sander Berge going to Fulham. It's just that McTominay option's gone when we know Fulham have got the money. But in fairness to Fulham, they offered 20 million for McTominay, and we said no, quite rightly. They've offered it for Sander Berge, and Burnley have said yes. There's not. Look, sometimes football doesn't work out the way you want it to work out. We can't argue with that. Like, Fulham have offered us 20 million for McTominay. It's not enough. They've offered it to Burnley, who are in the Championship. They've took it. We can't do anything about that. We can't do anything about that, really. Now, whether Napoli can get McTominay, it's all or nothing, isn't it? So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. Yeah, very, very interesting. There was something, actually, did you see this from Maguire earlier? He's given a big old interview. I mean, that ain't going anywhere, is he? Basically, we don't really want to set any targets this season. I think this club demands trophies, so we want to win another trophy, of course. And in the Premier League, we know there's large improvements that we need to do and make sure we did it last season. For sure, we've got to improve on last season, and let's see where it goes and takes us. This club has always given opportunities to young players, and the club has always produced good players. So the young boys know if they come and train with us, they perform and they do well. It's going to be up to them whether they take their chance or not, and they have the ability and the talent to do so. So Maguire doing quite an in-depth sort of ambassadorial interview there. I don't think he's going anywhere, is he? Which I'm not too unhappy with. Oh, there was one thing I wanted to talk to you about as well. I think we can bin this off now. I really think we can bin this off. Ivan Toney, concrete possibility goes to Saudi League. Some people still trying to get Ivan Toney a move to Manchester United. I think we need to park that. If I'm going to be fair, I don't think that's going to be happening for Manchester United at all. I think we've got to get realistic here, haven't we? We don't have money available for him. And we don't have money available for a left back. And I think, look, with 11 days left, I don't know what you're thinking about the situation, but with 11 days left, that's not a lot of time. We've heard today we don't have any money for a left back. We've heard today we can't afford Ugarte. And we've heard today that McTominay is not going to go to Fulham. Worst case scenario, a cheap left back and Amrabat, and McTominay stays. Best case scenario, a cheap left back, McTominay goes, Ugarte comes in. And I think that's where we are at the moment. We might get a few shocks. Maybe a Sancho will go. Maybe that will give us a little bit more freedom to spend more on a left back. But I think where we are now, if McTominay stays, we've got 7 midfielders. I can only see a cheap Amrabat, if anything. If McTominay goes, I think we get Ugarte. And I think that's where we are. And maybe some of the noise that we were talking about yesterday that McTominay wants, that Ten Hag wants McTominay to stay, is PR starting to come out to prepare us for the fact that we might be going in with what we've got. I know that sounds a bit scary. And maybe in previous years, there'd be a bit of a rant attached to that. There'd be a bit of a doom and gloom. But honestly, I still think we'll get Ugarte. I'm still very, very confident that we'll get Ugarte. But Sander Berge is going to go to Fulham, which means Fulham aren't going to get McTominay. So, you know, at the moment, it's Napoli. But look, another club could come in for McTominay. I mean, look, if you're Crystal Palace or you're Everton or you're West Ham, they won't want him. But that midfield's not good enough in its current shape. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That midfield is not good enough. Anyway, look, I've got to get over to That's Football. It's, in fact, I better turn the telly on. We've got Leicester against Spurs. A first look at Leicester, a first look at Spurs, more importantly. They finished above us last season, so I'm very interested to see how that goes. TV's on. Players are out on the pitch. Give me about 60 seconds or so, and I will be live. I've just got to change all this stuff. Thanks, everyone, for watching tonight. Absolute legends. Loved the show. Sorry it was a bit early, but there is a match to watch now. Oh, Neville's there in his white trainers. Jamie's got grey and white trainers on. God. At what age do you stop wearing that then? I don't know. Right, I'll see you over there. Take care.